level talk about what AI can do for us accountants. I've seen so many ways AI can help in marketing or in programming or even in financial modeling, but I just haven't really seen it that much specifically used for accounting. And so this is going to be almost just like an intro to these tools, more like basic higher level skills. But I do envision doing a part 2 sometime in the future where we get a little bit more in depth and more advanced skills with these AIs. Because really these tools like Claude and Perplexity Computer, they've only been out for a couple months, and with Computer only for a couple weeks, actually. So I'm still learning how to use these tools myself. And so as we learn more, I'll share what I'm learning. But yeah, today's just meant to be a bit of an intro. So with that though, for those who don't know me, hi, my name is Mackenzie Thota. I'm the CEO and co-founder of HashBasis. We are a crypto native accounting firm, and I'm based here in San Francisco. HashBasis has been around for over 3 years now, which is kind of crazy. Before that, I was doing revenue and crypto accounting at Figment, which is a crypto proof of stake validator company. And then before that, I was doing revenue accounting at Honeywell, so more of a traditional company. And I didn't really think about AI until really the last couple of months, until Cowork came out. And then my mind was just kind of blown. I was like, oh my gosh, everything is going to change. And lucky for me, my husband, Nikhil Thota, has been working in AI for the last couple of years. So Nikhil, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everyone. Yeah, I'm Nikhil. I'm Mackenzie's husband. So I've been working at Perplexity for close to 3 years now. My 3 years is actually in a week, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, I've been kind of seeing AI change how I work day to day in software, and it seems like it's kind of an early sign of what's going to happen to a lot of other industries. So I just wanted to sort of share my experience to y'all.
Great. I'm so lucky that I get to have my husband on a webinar with me. And thank you again for agreeing to do this. So here's the agenda for today. So we're first going to talk about the state of AI. So just to set the framing, more like high level general overview, especially learning from Nikhil, like what he's seen. Well, when he first started Perplexity, AI was in a very different spot. So what that was like, and then we're going to chat through what AI looks like today, and then talk about what it could potentially look like in the future. After that, we'll get into more specifically like how AI can be useful for us accountants, for the accounting industry. And then I'll get into some practical examples. So I have quite a few, which is why I think this webinar might be a little bit long. But we have some examples of how to do specific tasks in Claude and then also on Perplexity. And then, of course, since we're accountants, we deal with a lot of sensitive information all the time. I'm going to touch on data security. And then finally, how to actually implement these AI systems in your practice, if you have an accounting firm, or just at your job, if you're an accountant or a financial analyst, anything like that. Just some strategies for like how to actually get started with these tools. I know it can be very overwhelming. Like I'm overwhelmed all the time. I'm anxious that I'm always behind. So I just have some practical tips and tricks to help you maybe not feel that way all the time. And then we're gonna have some Q&A. And if you just joined, so there's a Q&A portion at the top. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to enter them in there. So, all right, the state of AI. That's so funny. It makes it sound so grand. But Nikhil, I'd love for you to kick this off. What was AI like when you first joined Perplexity, 3 years ago?
Yeah. So I joined right around the time that ChatGPT came out, which I'm sure a lot of you, if not all of you, have heard of or at least used. Back then, it was a very flaky, unreliable product where it would just make stuff up and kind of lie to you most of the time. But the core idea, I think, was really interesting, that you could just talk into a system and it would give you something useful or something at least coherent sounding. And that sort of experience is what really compelled me to work on building this stuff a bit more. And so for myself, in the coding space, there's like a few different, I guess, stages of the industry for me. First was actually before ChatGPT. There's this product called Copilot, which was like a fancy autocomplete. So as you were coding, you could like press the tab button, and then it would write the next word for you, maybe save you a few minutes here and there. And once ChatGPT came out, I found myself like copy and pasting a lot of stuff into the chatbot, and surprisingly, it was decent at understanding and reading and writing code because it had been trained on a lot of code. So over time, I just kind of kept like using it more for different use cases, both for work and both for personal. And I'd say like it's been very interesting to be in the software industry because I do see like now especially almost everyone that I know is using this daily, and if their companies allow it, they're trying to maximize the amount of I guess tokens that they're generating to get the most output from it. And as I said, yeah, I think this is where the industry is heading, and I think where a lot of the knowledge work professions are going to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's kind of interesting. We talk about this a lot, and it seems like accounting is almost lagging a little bit behind in programming. Like you were able to use Cursor and what do you say, Copilot, like all these different agents for writing your code. Like you're able to do that now, and it seems to work pretty reliably most of the time. It seems like accounting, we're kind of in like the Copilot stage maybe, or the ChatGPT phase. And with the introduction of Cowork, we're starting to get more automated and starting to have the capabilities of these agents just be a little bit higher. But it still does feel like we're lagging. I remember a couple of years ago, Nikhil, like, you would just like come to me and be like, "Oh my gosh, like AI is going to change everything," and I'd be like, "Okay, whatever, honey. Like, go do your programming stuff." But now I totally get it because I just feel like things have been changing overnight, and we're finally at the stage where we're starting to catch up with how AI has affected programming. So now doing the same for accounting. So in terms of the future of AI, we're going to get to these key terms in a second, but I did want to pull up this chart here because this has been all over my Twitter feed like the last week or two. This is actually an image from a labor report that Anthropic put out, and Anthropic is one of the biggest large language model companies out there. They're the company behind Claude and Claude Cowork. And a lot of people saw this graph and were freaking out about it, I guess, which I kind of understand. But I just wanted to explain this graph real quickly, and Nikhil and I can talk about its potential impacts. But keep in mind, this labor report that Anthropic did is very much just like what they think could happen in the future. It's very theoretical. It's not set in stone. Who knows how AI is actually going to impact all of our professions. But what this chart is saying is that we have a bunch of professions on the outside here. So, on the right-hand side is more knowledge work like business, programming, all these kinds of things. And then on the other side, I guess I see these professions more of like in person, like construction or agriculture. And then the shaded area in red is where we've seen AI actually be able to do tasks within those industries, or I guess they call it the observed AI coverage. So where AI is actually being used within these industries. And then the blue portion is what AI could theoretically do within those industries. And correct me if I'm wrong, Nikhil, but I think in the report they define it as tasks, like how many tasks could AI do within that industry? And I think they break it down into like the tasks that each profession would actually do. And people were freaking out because there's only a very small portion for a lot of these knowledge work professions where an AI couldn't do the job. Nikhil and I were laughing. We're like, "Oh, we're so cooked," because accounting and programming are like one of the professions with like the highest AI coverage. So yeah, this is just something to keep in mind for the future. I don't show this to like doom scroll or anything like that. I more so just want to let you know what some of the biggest models are saying about what they think their AI can do in the future. And if anything, it's all really wonderful that you guys are here. This technology is here to stay, and it's only going to get better. But keep in mind, this is also just a theoretical, like future forward-looking graph. It may not even happen this way at all. But yeah, Nikhil, any thoughts on this?
Yeah. I think one other thing is this is like the jobs that we currently know and the tasks that currently exist, rather than the cool thing I think about AI is that it not only makes current work easier and simpler to do, but it also, I think, expands the pool of what work can exist and what work is possible. So that's something that's not even represented in this graph. So I think there is some like something exciting about that.
Yeah, like all the future jobs that we don't even know about. So yeah, that's not on here. And then yeah, we're also saying like, we have to, if we want to stay in our industries, we'll have to aim to be in this like little portion that's not covered. But I don't know if that's actually going to be the way it turns out. But who knows? Um, anyway, though, Nikhil, I also wanted to talk about some key terms. These are just words that I've heard all the time, and like accountants, we don't talk about this stuff every day. So if you could just define what some of these terms are. Sorry, that's supposed to be LLMs down there. That would just be really helpful. And if you could keep it more like high level, like something an accountant would understand versus like very technical. But yeah, if you could just help us define these terms.
Yeah, yeah, I'll try to be brief with these, but I think the order is important because it feels like they kind of build on each other. But yeah, so the first term is large language model, or LLM. This is, you know, typically you could think of it as like you have an AI system that does a task or does research for you. The LLM is the brain of it. And there's different kinds of LLMs. There's like OpenAI has one, GPT, Anthropic has one, Claude, Gemini has one, and they all kind of do the same thing. They take input that's unstructured, whether it's text, in images, videos, audio, and they output text based on what inputs you give it. And so this is pretty cool because you could just give it a bunch of random, raw, unstructured data, and it's able to process and understand what you're giving it and give you a coherent output. So this is the brain of these AI systems. And then if we go one term below, it's agents. Agents are actually the scaffolding or the sort of software around the LLM that lets it do particular tasks. So agents have the brain, but they also have access to different tools and affordances, like they can search the web, they can maybe use a browser, they can like have access to different like connectors, they can talk to QuickBooks or talk to Excel and be able to manipulate data in interesting ways. And this is all done sort of on like the the text level. So you still give it an input and output, but inside the agent, it has the ability to reach out to these different tools if it needs to. And the next one, agentic search versus task agent. Yeah, so it's like there's two sort of different tasks, I guess you could give an agent at a very high level. There's a research or search related task where you tell it to, you give it a high level objective, like I don't know, Mackenzie, what's something that you've like researched before in?
Yeah, like research how the One Big Beautiful Bill Act changes R&D.
Yeah, yeah. So you give it a research task like that, and it can learn what the Big Beautiful Bill is. It can learn about the R&D tax code for the U.S. It can learn about the historical implications of similar bills, and it will synthesize all of that into a report. And this is mostly just reading data and synthesizing it. This actually works pretty reliably, I think, for all industries now. The thing that doesn't quite work for all industries yet is the task agent, where you tell it to do something on your behalf. Like for accounting, it might be you want it to like take data from a spreadsheet and then update it in QuickBooks or whatever software of choice. And this this works sometimes. It doesn't work a lot of the time because a lot of the onus on the right abstractions and the right ways of doing these tasks depends on the vendor to actually build the right sort of scaffolding around it. So this leads me into MCP connectors, which is the current sort of best practice for connecting to these different services. So like, every single company that wants you to interact with their data or automate it in some way through AI agents would essentially create an MCP spec. And this spec is what the agents can read and basically understand that, oh, I need to do this to like get this transaction. I need to do this to edit this transaction, blah, blah, blah. There's just this whole list of things it can do. MCP, I think, is a very early attempt at unifying this. I don't think it works quite well yet, but technically it's there and it's possible to do some interesting stuff with it.
Yeah, we're not going to cover any of the MCP stuff in this webinar just because, as Nikhil said, it's still pretty early. Like even the other day, I connected QuickBooks to Claude and I said like just create a basic invoice, send it to Nikhil for $500, and it just didn't work. I guess I don't know. QuickBooks needs to work on their MCP, but once that works, like whether it's MCP or via like API connection in the future, like that's gonna be the next part of the game-changing aspect of this. But yeah, we're not gonna really focus too much, or not at all on that piece of the AI stack for this webinar. So just heads up on that. But okay, cool. Thank you for defining those terms for us, Nikhil. I know it almost feels like when I was first getting into crypto, there was like so many of these terms and words and jargon, and sometimes it's good to just sit down and ask yourself like what exactly does this mean. So thank you for that. Okay, now let's actually get into AI for accountants. So what is actually possible right now? And a bunch of things are actually possible right now. It's honestly just amazing to me how quickly my workflow has changed, and like what I do in a day to day, like right now is so different than even like three weeks ago as we've started to get up to speed on these tools. So where AI works well, first section here, we kind of talked about this already. It's just research, what's the latest gap updates, what's the latest like tax updates, how does this relate to my customers, like etc. That's been useful for a while. I remember when I first started using Perplexity, when it first came out, 3 years ago, this was the first thing that I really used it for. And I still use it like quite a bit for the research aspect, especially for professions like accounting, or there's just new changes all the time. Not only on the gap side, but like specifically on the tax side, there's been a ton of changes in this year. It's been really helpful just to have like a research intern that can just work on research tasks for me. So that's very good. Document work. So we also kind of talked about this, but like summarizing reports, extracting key data. So for example, the Anthropic report, I threw that into Perplexity and I said, give me a summary of this report. It was kind of meta, like an AI summary of an AI report, but that was really helpful because I like when I put it into the prompt, I said like explain all these charts to me in plain English or something that I would understand, and it was able to do that because I found the Anthropic report to have like a lot of jargon and things like that. Creating outlines, presentations, that's super easy to do now, like creating slides. There's a tool called Gamma that's really good. Even creating outlines, like we're working on for our new podcast episode. It's going to be accounting in ancient China, by the way. I just asked Perplexity, like come up with an outline. Here are some of the primary sources I've already found. Like read through everything and create a super comprehensive outline, and it can do that. Now that's for a podcast, but you could do the same thing for any type of accounting. Next is client communication, and I think a lot of people are already using AI for this, like drafting memos, for like tax memos, for example, or emails to customers, and explanations of complex topics. And so sometimes I don't actually use this as often as I thought, but like sometimes if my customer has a question in an email and I'm not quite sure how to respond, I'll have AI sort of help me come up with a response. But I still haven't quite found a way for AI to sound exactly like the way I would type. That's just something that I found. So I personally don't really use AI to type my emails because I just don't like the way it sounds. The next bucket, data analysis. This is the one that I think has changed the most with Cowork and Perplexity. And one thing to know is that AI is super good at spotting anomalies or variances and very good at pattern recognition. And so as all the accountants know, a lot of our job is reconciling, like trying to get one data source to tie out to another data source. And most of the times, or a lot of the times, it doesn't actually tie out. And so AI has been so helpful for figuring out like breaks in a bank reconciliation or a crypto reconciliation. And it usually like decreases the amount of time that I'm spending trying to fix something because it just tells me what the problem is right away. And it gives me insights as to what else could be wrong or what else could be improved. And so, yeah, I've been using AI a lot for that. And then in addition to just creating reports, creating analyses, we're going to get into some specific examples. But now that AI can write to Excel, write to documents. It can actually create all of this, like all these analyses and collateral for you. So that's amazing. And the workflow support, that's kind of general. And I have this as like turning messy requests into structured task lists. So for example, we have a bunch of tax work that we're doing at the firm, and I just kind of brain dumped it into AI. I was like, here's all the customers that I know I have to do work for. Like I kind of gave like some status updates, like, oh, I'm waiting on this customer to sign the e-file authorization form, or like I'm waiting on this customer to respond to me about this. And so I put it all that context is like all very unstructured. And then I asked Perplexity to like give me like a calendar of how I can complete all this tax work by April 15th. And it gave me specific days and what work I needed to do on those days. So that's pretty awesome. But AI is not a panacea. It doesn't solve everything. As I said, I think accounting is definitely lagging behind some other industries in terms of what AI can do for it. So AI still falls short, I think, on tasks requiring any professional judgment or any like gray area. And as accountants know, there's so many gray areas in GAAP, in tax. A lot of it is up to your professional judgment. And at least at this point, I don't trust the AI to make that call for me. And so anything that's just a little bit more, gray areas, I guess is how I would frame it. That's something that I still very much keep with myself. Situations where AI may hallucinate, which just means they're really confident about an incorrect answer. Now, this doesn't happen as much now, but I remember a couple years ago, especially ChatGPT. I didn't even use it because it just hallucinate half the time. But you really have to double check what the AI is giving you, even though it's like way better now. You can't just let it run loose and do everything for you, because it could just think it's totally right and it's completely wrong. Even the other day, like yesterday, I was using it to help me come up with some journal entries, and it switched the debits and credits, and I was like, what the heck? This is so wrong. And so you just have to just double check everything. And then anything that's, again, complex accounting or tax work, like for example, now like you still can't use AI to fully complete a tax return for you, which again, I think is a good thing because there's a lot of professional judgment that can potentially go into that. And then at least a hash basis here, a lot of our crypto accounting we still can't like fully automate it yet, just because there's a lot of different systems that we're using. Like we're using block explorers, we're using like external reconciliations, we're using crypto subledgers like a Bitwave or Koinly or something. And so there's just not like enough like rails or connectors to fully integrate everything yet. And maybe that gets for like MCP discussion where a lot of the like our tests are not just rote a lot of the times. A lot of them is very one. So, but not yet. Like I think AI definitely will get there in the future. I think we're just just a little bit behind. So, okay, let's jump into some practical examples. All right, we have half an hour, so hopefully these are helpful. And Nikhil, definitely like jump in here if you have anything to say, any context on these. Okay, let me take this off. Actually, I think I'm sharing my whole screen. So the way this is going to work, I'm actually going to show you some prompts I've done on Claude and Perplexity. I'm going to walk you through everything here. And please, if you have any questions, throw them into the Q&A. And Nikhil, maybe you can also look at the Q&A to help, or just monitor that as well. So, okay, first one we're going to cover is Claude. So I'm going to get out of here and get Claude open. Okay, cool. So Claude is one of the tools I think a lot of people are using. And just real quick, we're gonna cover some examples, but I'm also gonna give you just some like how to use Claude skills, like just some more generalized things of what Claude can actually do for you. So when you open up Cowork, there's gonna be 3 different tabs here. There's chat, Cowork, and code. Chat is basically like what we already had with ChatGPT, so I don't actually use it that often. Cowork is what it's really helpful for accountants because this is a tool that can actually make reports for you, do analyses, like all that kind of stuff. And then code, I personally never use this one, but if you wanted to program something, then you could go ahead and do it here. But we're going to stick with Cowork first. And the first example is this one right here. I think it's this one. Hang on. Okay, cool. So a good example or something that I wanted to share is that I use Koinly a lot for my customers. It's a crypto subledger. And a lot of the times I'm trying to download reports that show like what Koinly shows is the ending balance for all of my customers' tokens. And I'm trying to compare that to what the actual balances are on chain. And Koinly has a specific report. It's called like a balances by wallet report. but it always gives it to me in a PDF format, and it's so annoying because like if they just gave it to me in a spreadsheet, it'd be so much easier. But since it's in a PDF, I can manually copy and paste like the token, the wallet address, and then the actual token amount. And before I had any sort of tools, it was very manual. I had to copy and paste a bunch of stuff. But now that I have Cowork, what I can do is just dump in the PDF that it gives me, and then I just ask it, hey, format this into a spreadsheet for me, and then I'm able to download that and then put it into my reconciliation template where I'm comparing what Koinly shows and then what on-chain actually has. So that's exactly what we see right here. This is the file, and let me actually go to a new task here. And so you can actually load files here. So this is why I think Cowork is so super cool. You can either directly connect it to a file or folder on your desktop, or you can just upload one-off files. So for example, I just uploaded a PDF here and then just said, hey, like convert everything here to an Excel. Now, you probably saw here, run the Koinly wallet balances skill on this PDF. The term skill is, I guess it's come up a lot recently. And actually, let me pull up my definition. I'm still not very good at giving all the definitions for these things, but a skill is basically a set of instructions that you give the AI that it can then repeat every single time you make a similar query. Nikhil, did I get that right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like a combination of like a prompt and then maybe some additional documents or code that you give it to do a task. It's like you would give like a little onboarding doc to a new employee on how to perform a specific procedure or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's basically like an SOP. Accountants, we make those all the time, but now the AI has that SOP. It's called a skill though. And so I've already loaded this skill into Claude, and so every single time that I drop in this Koinly PDF and I use phrasing like this, like hey, convert this to a CSV or like run this particular skill, it already knows how to go through that set list of instructions to give me the output that I want. Now, the way to actually create a skill, because I also want to show you guys that, if you go to customize, it'll say skills here, and that's how you actually see the skills that you have. So I only have one skill so far, but like I use it all the time. So I'm still, getting up to speed on my skills. But you can see it literally is an SOP. Like it tells you, like the AI is telling itself what it needs to do. And yeah, it just kind of pulls from this library. So anytime you create a skill, you can either create a skill just by, it tells you how to do it here. So the first time I did this, I kind of walked the AI through how to do it. And then at the very end, I said, now make this a skill. And then it created the skill for itself and saved it to itself. But you can either upload a skill, like if you have a markdown file that already has instructions, or Claude actually, I think this is new, they like built a little wizard to help you write the skill in the first place. So there's a bunch of different ways you can get it in. Also, if you guys haven't done this, Claude and Perplexity have connectors. And so this just lets you connect Claude to a bunch of different applications that you already have. Like, for example, I connected it to Google, like Google Drive, Gmail, Notion, Slack, Webflow, Canva. There's a bunch of different connectors that are already available. And Nikhil, is this like the actual Canva or something they would publish their connector, or just Perplexity or
Yeah.
the AI, like the company do it?
Yeah, so it's kind of both ways, where every platform that wants AI agents to connect with it has to create like an MCP server, which is, like I mentioned before, this API spec definition of how to use their product, but they do have to build it and maintain it, and that's part of the problem. It's not like a really scalable, generalizable way to connect to any platform out there. But yeah, the company has to do that, and then the agent company like Claude or Perplexity would need to also build a connecting layer.
Yeah, it seems like we're in this age where like everything's just trying to connect to each other, but the rails aren't. Like this is also new that the rails aren't fully developed yet. But I found like the Google connectors, like these have been very reliable. Canva wasn't so good. Sorry, Canva. And Notion, I don't think I've tried that one, but definitely use the connectors. It, like for example, it'd be able to pull like your Gmail history. If you have, like, if you need to pull up context for a specific customer or something, it can use that, which is helpful. Now, there's also plugins. And Nikhil, what are plugins again? I always forget. Is it like just a group of skills, pretty much?
Basically, yeah, it's just a I mean, this is a very, Claude Cowork specific concept, but I think it's just that they're bundling some skills together. So if you have if you're doing like finance work, you can download like 3 or 4 skills related to it.
Yeah, I did the finance plugin here. Oh, I guess you can see, yeah, it already has a bunch of skills preloaded, and I haven't really added any of these connectors. But
there's an interesting question. I answered a couple, but there's another one in the chat about whether you had more success building skills within Claude or using a different agent to write the skill for you.
I've only ever tried using Claude to write the skills for me. Nikhil, I guess, Nikhil, do you even use skills for programming? It seems like it would not translate.
I have some skills for like doing like, pull requests or like writing GitHub comments or things like that. But I haven't really made a ton. But yeah, to answer the question, I will say that you generally, if you're writing like prompt specific stuff for any model, you should use that model to write its own prompts. So like if you write a skill for Claude with GPT, it's not really going to work as well because they're still LLMs, but they kind of speak a different language. So yeah, I'd suggest just doing it within the interface that they provide.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm curious for Perplexity then, because you guys don't have a model, you're model agnostic, so that's we'll talk about that more when we get to Perp. But yeah. Oh, great questions. Thank you everyone for asking questions. These are awesome. Please keep the questions coming. Yeah, so that's plugins for finance. There's a couple ones like prepared journal entries, and for this you can use / command. So if you go to a new task and then let's just do / and then plugins finance, it'll pull up journal entry. Oh, and it brings you through this whole wizard. I haven't actually used this much because I haven't had to create a lot of new journal entries recently. Like a lot of my customers we use the same templates every month. So I think this is helpful if there's like something new that you need to do, but I haven't actually needed to do that yet. So anyway, that's how you customize, do skills, plugins, connectors, all that kind of stuff. This is how you make AI actually tailored to and work for you. Another good example of a skill, I haven't added this yet in Claude. I think I did it in Perplexity, but anytime Claude creates a report for me, the spreadsheet it gives me, I think is so ugly. Like the colors are awful. They like highlight every single box. Like it's terrible. And so what I did in Perplexity is I uploaded an example spreadsheet that has all the formatting that I like, Arial 10, like just pastel colors occasionally, I'm very specific about that. And so anytime that Perplexity creates a spreadsheet for me now, it knows to default to the style that I like and that I would do. And so yeah, it feels a lot more like me, even though it's the tool doing it. So okay, that is a little bit on customization. Just a couple other examples that I had. So this one is another like PDF example, but yeah, I have a customer, they're Korean, and half the invoice was in Korean and half the invoice was in English. Like this is out of QuickBooks. I don't know what was happening in QuickBooks. It was some kind of bug. But the whole invoice needed to be in English, not Korean. And so I put the invoice into Claude and I said, can you just replace the Korean with English? And it was able to do that really quickly. And if I was to do this manually, it would have taken a lot more time. Like I would have had to translate, do some silly PDF editor, but I was able to just do it very quickly, which I was very happy about. So I guess that's one broad category that I use it for, is like PDF manipulation, or just like formatting manipulation in general. That comes up a lot more than you'd expect in accounting, and it's like such a waste of time, I think, to do it manually. But now we don't have to do that anymore. Okay, the next prompt that I wanted to show you, and this one I wanted Claude to create a state income tax nexus analysis for hash basis. And so I was trying to see, like, I gave Claude like our company financials, and then I gave it the list of every customer that we have and in what region they're located in. And I wanted Claude to give me a report that says, like, based on the the nexus thresholds for each state, where would I potentially have to file a state income tax return or pay state income tax? And so this is an example of Claude actually creating an analysis for me. I only gave it basically one source document. That's all I had to go off of, but yeah, it was able to create this like amazing spreadsheet for me that has all the thresholds by each state. Like it's able to pull in external information as well and make it into a report that is something that I can use. And so you can scroll down a little bit here, but the AI, as it's running, it's just going through, like it almost creates like a task list for itself, and then it just checks off various tasks. And the progress here, like this is what I mean by it tells itself what to do, and then it just goes, like it just does those tasks, and then you can go ahead and download the file. So the first time it ran the prompt, it gave me into like a doc file. I didn't want that. I was like, I want everything in a spreadsheet. And so then I asked it to reformat, put it in a spreadsheet, and it went ahead and did that. And so here's an example. It has like, I took all the numbers out, but it has the summary, and it has revenue by state. These are fake numbers, I wish. And so it has all the states, the revenue, the breakdown, and then it breaks it down into like the actual nexus analysis, like based on the revenue you had. Do you have to file state income tax? What's the actual threshold? And then also like what's the apportionment method? Like some states, they determine your nexus based on like just what your sales are in that state. Some do a combination of gross receipts, like physical presence, payroll. Like every state's very different when it comes to that. And so the fact that the Claude could just research everything for each particular state and combine it with my own data, it's just so nice. It's like stuff like this we just don't really have to do anymore. Of course, like review it. I wouldn't just take this as truth, but it's a really great starting point. Okay, another example that I wanted to show is this is an example of a like a reconciliation where I have two data sources. And so one of my customers, they got their first 1099 DA from Coinbase this year. And so what I wanted to do was double check what the 1099 DA had, like the data that's in Coinbase. I wanted to compare it against what we had in our crypto ledger. And so here I'm essentially uploading to there's like a separate memo with more information, but I uploaded two spreadsheets and I just said compare the two and make sure the inflows are the same, the trades are the same, any cash outflows, like make sure that's all the same. And it was able to do that. You can see it wrote like a whole checklist here. It's like, okay, I have to extract the data from the PDF. I have to look through the Koinly transactions. I had to read the memo for additional context, build a reconciliation spreadsheet, and then verify everything. And then it went ahead and it gave me a spreadsheet reconciliation here. And it looks very similar to what you saw on the state nexus reconciliation, but I've used this rec feature multiple times. Like an example, one of my customers accidentally like changed something in their crypto subledger, so all the historical numbers had changed. And I was like, oh no, like that's the worst thing that happened. But then I already had all of like the reconciled files from when we last went in. And so I was able to dump in like, here's what the subledger says now. Here's my reconciled files that I know were correct for prior years. Like what happened, like where are the variances? And it was able to at least like point me in the right direction. And then I was able to figure it out. It's like, oh, like this wallet was missing all this data. And then I was able to put it back in. And it just like shortened the amount of time it would have taken me to fix it by considerable amount. So that is very helpful. And I think this is key for accountants. We're always reconciling. Like this can just speed up the rate at which we can fix a reconciliation like so quickly. Okay, now the other Claude thing I wanted to cover, this is the last one for Claude, is the feature where you can, connect a folder. And so down here, what you can do is if you have a folder on your desktop or wherever, you can allow Claude to access all the files within that folder. It can't go crazy and access like every file locally. It can only access like what you give it permission to access. And so what I was trying to do, and I have it here. Yeah, I gave it access to a folder that had a bunch of screenshots. And what I wanted it to do was rename the screenshots so that the name of the screenshot was the crypto wallet address. So essentially, I was doing a bunch of screenshots to get like month-end balances for like a lot of my clients' wallets, like on-chain wallets. And so I took the screenshot, but when you just have a screenshot, like it doesn't default to a very descriptive name, right? So it's like screenshot number 1 or something. I wanted to actually be the wallet address. And so I gave it access to my folder with all the unnamed screenshots. And I said, rename each one to be the crypto wallet address. And it was able to actually do that. So now, and I'll have it pulled up here. It's called screenshot testing. And before, yeah, I just had like garbage names, but now this is the actual name of the address. So oops, let me move this over. So now it's just perfectly renamed. And that just saves a lot of time. So, okay, that's Claude.
There's also a few like Claude specific questions and accounting specific questions as well, if you want to. take those.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Josh, that question you asked, this is on my, yes, I have actually done that. And we're actually going to look at an example on Perplexity. That's like V2 of me working on Claude. So now I can have it convert all the balances back to like in a spreadsheet. But then the part two of the skill I'm going to have is actually pull the balance from on-chain. And it's a little bit easier on like Ethereum-based chains because you have the balance checker. So if you literally just say like, go to this website, put in this wallet address, token contract address, and time, like it's very good at doing that. But if the Explorer doesn't really have the ending balance checker, like Solana doesn't really have a great one, then I think it's a little bit more difficult. But like 100%, like this is my next skill that I'm gonna write. And have you used Claude to look at block explorers? Yes. That question, we're going to look at that with Perplexity. So the question is, have you used Claude to look at block explorers on-chain transactions and look at actual on-chain activity? So you can't really use Claude to do that now for some reason, and we'll talk about this with Perp. Like, it doesn't connect to the internet, and so if you say like go to this website or like look at this tweet, it can't do that. So yeah, we're going to look at that. And then is there security concern? Absolutely, VJ, we're going to cover that as well. We have a whole section on it. So, okay, do you think Claude can be taught to trace the missing cost basis inception? Yes, definitely. Claude, again, all these AIs are very good at pattern recognition. And so if something is missing or off, at least it will be able to point you in the right direction. Okay, let's move to Perplexity Computer though. Okay, so Nikhil, this is your thing. You build this. So can you give us an intro as to what this is?
Yeah. So Perplexity Computer is, it's similar to Cowork in some sense that it is a general purpose agent that has a bunch of connectors. It can ask clarifying questions. It can run in the background. It can like do recurring tasks for you. The main difference is that it runs in the cloud, so it's not like on your device, which has its pros and cons. But I think one of the main pros is that you don't need your computer open to do work. You can like fire off requests from your phone now, and you can just kind of have them running in the background without you worrying about it. But yeah, at a high level, it's a kind of like a partner for you as you're doing your work and can help you automate certain tasks and do really interesting things. A few other differentiators, I think, that haven't come out fully yet, but will in the coming weeks. One is that Computer can also connect to your local browser, so that the interesting thing about the connectors is that because the MCPs aren't so good, there's this long tail of different platforms and websites that you want to access either to get data from or to like interact with in some way, but there's no explicit connector. The only real scalable way to solve that is how you would do it, which is like you go in the browser, you click around and you do random things to achieve a goal. Perplexity Computer connected to Comet, which is Perplexity's browser, is sort of the solution that we've thought of for this. So yeah.
Great. Yeah, and I think the last point here is, at least for crypto accounting, it's really big. Perplexity, the computer seems to be able to access the internet and use it as context and like harvest data from it, which like for crypto accounting, like you really need that. So okay, so now we're going to do a live demo. I'm so nervous. I hope this works. It like usually works all the time, but I'm going to show you Comet, which again is the Perplexity's browser, and it has like it can actually take control of your browser and click on your behalf. And so I do use this quite often whenever there's, I call it clicking work or like carpal tunnel work. Every accountant knows what I'm talking about. Like a good example in NetSuite, if you have to approve a bunch of things, you can only approve like 20 at a time. And then you have to like click approve and then wait for the next batch of 20 to load and then click approve. And then like, it's just such a waste of time. But now with Comet Assistant, you can actually just have the agentic browser do it on your behalf. And so I'm going to actually show you an example. This is just Hashbasis's QuickBooks account here. And what I'm going to have Comet do is create some new vendors on my behalf. Like I know you can just mass upload vendors to QBO, but I just wanted to show you what Comet can actually do. And Comet, it's just a browser, it looks like Chrome or something, but it has an assistant they can open up. And so my prompt here is take control of my browser and add these 2 new vendors, just the names. We don't need any other info. And so I'm gonna click enter here, and whenever the screen turns kind of like blue jelly thing, that's how you know Claude is, or not Claude, Perplexity is taking control of your browser. So I'm not touching anything right now. It's going through and clicking on my behalf. Now, as you can imagine, like there could be concerns with this. Like I always watch it for the most part, especially if it's a new task. I watch it to make sure like it actually does the right thing. But once you've watched it do it a couple times, then like my confidence is pretty high that it actually does it correctly. So now we have our new vendor, great. And so now it's going to go ahead and create. Oh no, I think it's not working. Is it working? Oh no, it's probably going to loop now. So now it's going to try to find a new vendor, but okay, now it's like, oh, I can't add a new vendor there. So then it went back, and now it's going to click the top right and do a new vendor from there. So this is really great. Again, anytime there's any sort of like clicky work, we just click a bunch of things all the time. Again, in accounting, it happens so frequently. It's like the worst part of the job, but now you can just have an AI do it on your behalf. But again, watch it like the first couple of times to make sure it's doing it correctly. So yeah, now it's created these 2 vendors, great. And you can click out at any time, like it doesn't have control of your browser forever. You can, again, like it's within your control. So that's kind of cool. I use that feature quite often. And yeah, so that's Comet. That's again just the browser, but Perplexity's co-work equivalent is called Computer. And actually, I'll just bring it up right here. There we go. This is what Computer looks like. So this is Perplexity, and then Computer is just, again, it looks very much like Claude. You just ask it tasks or ask it to complete a task on your behalf, and then it'll just go ahead and do it. The task we're going to cover, the first task is how to do a credit card reconciliation for me. And so this is where, this is why, I mean, obviously I'm biased here, but this is why I use Perplexity a little bit more, just because I have a bunch of Loom videos. Anyone who knows me knows that I make like hundreds of Loom videos. And so I've already made so many videos on how to do a bunch of tasks, like for my own contractors or people that work at HashBasis. And so I just literally gave Computer this Loom. I'm like, okay, watch it. Now complete this rec, and I gave it the file because I've already connected Perplexity to Google Drive. It already has access to this file, and it can write directly like in the file. And so I was when this ran, I was so happy. It watched my Loom video, and by watch I mean it was able to actually like it can download the transcription, so it knows what I'm saying, and then it can actually access the Google Sheet, and then it can paste in all the data, and it did like the whole reconciliation for me. This is a credit card rec for the month. I think it was February. Yeah, that it did. And so what I'm scrolling through now, these are just all the tasks that Computer is running on my behalf. And I really like how transparent it is. I can see like exactly where it is in the process. The only thing that it struggled with, and Nikhil, I think I told you, was doing the formatting correctly. I wanted to do like, I'm very particular about my formatting, and it kind of struggled with that. Hopefully that gets fixed soon, but it's fixed now? Oh, yeah. Yay. Okay, great. Well, then maybe I'll try this again. But yeah, this kind of blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, it can do like the whole rec for me. And it was correct. Like everything besides the formatting was correct. And yeah, I was like, wow, that graph from Anthropic, that was, that flashed through my head. So yeah, this was awesome. But again, like if you paste this into Claude, it won't work because it can't access the internet to watch this. So, and then the other one that I wanted to show you is, this one right here. So we're getting a lot of questions around like, can this look at the Block Explorer, whatever. This is exactly what this prompt is doing. And so one of my customers, they basically got a bunch of airdrops from this protocol called Aerodrome. But the airdrops were in NFTs. Like they got airdrop NFTs, but the NFTs actually represented like some amount of Aero tokens. And if you went to each individual transaction, you could actually like look at the logs for the transaction and see how much Aero the NFT represented. And so I didn't want to spend a bunch of time like reading through all these logs because they airdrop to like thousands of people at a time. And so I said, okay, my customer got all of these bonuses or all these airdrops. Here's a tweet that has more information as to what this airdrop program even was. So as you can see, I like threw in a bunch of context. I'm just adding context so that the AI, the more context you give it, like the better job the AI will actually do. So I said, here's the tweet, here's our tax position on it. And I attached a spreadsheet that had all the transaction hashes and where they actually got the airdrop. Here's the client's address, and here's what I need you to do. Like, see how much arrow the client actually got, then calculate the fair market value on the day that they received it. So we know how much income that we're choosing not to tax now because we're taking like a tax position on it. And then after that, write a memo that complies with the IRC, explaining why we're not taxing for XYZ reason right now. And so it's so cool. Like, it's reading the tweet. It's creating a task list for itself to actually, I think this is for doing the memo. And then here it's actually, I don't know if I can, Nikhil, can I open this up? Yeah, then it's actually going to base scan. And so this is on base, and this is what the transaction looks like. So my customer, they were getting an NFT, but the NFTs, you can see, like, represented a bunch of arrow. And so the AI went to the logs, it found the corresponding address, it got the amount of arrow, but then you had to convert the arrow back to a human readable number. And then it went to CoinGecko and it found the price of arrow on the date of the transaction and then put it all together in a spreadsheet for me. So I was super happy about this because, and I can see, like, it gave me the table and I was like, okay, great. And then there's a much more stuff. And then it actually gave me the tax memo here. So yeah, this one made me really excited because this is automating like a lot of my Block Explorer work, which, like, if I didn't have AI, this would have taken me like, a couple hours to do this. So yeah, that was pretty great. I'm just looking at some questions here. Can you use this to reconcile bank or credit card statement has greater than 1,000 transactions? That's a good question. My credit card rec, I think maybe had like a couple hundred. It didn't have a couple thousand, but yeah, I mean, try it. That's what I would say. Okay, I know we're coming up on time, so I'm going to go through the rest of this pretty quickly. So the cost of this, like, all these tools are really great, but they're also very expensive to use. I'm always running into my rate limits on Claude and on Perplexity. Like, they like denote how expensive it is by credits. And so the more complex a task is, the more credits it costs, which makes sense, right? Running these models is not free. And so that credit card reconciliation I was talking about, that cost a lot of credits on Perplexity, and it was actually more expensive to do it like the more automated way than to have like one of my team members actually do it. So for me, I still have my team doing my recs because like it's just too expensive to do it with AI right now. But I mean, I don't know, Kira, what do you think? Like, the cost is definitely going to go down, but right now we're just limited by GPU power.
Yeah.
What are we limited by?
So yeah, I'll say that the cost of like running these models at the frontier has gone down by like 10 to 20x over the past year, and I don't expect that slowing down. So I'd say within another year, the same task with the same amount of intelligence will cost like a tenth of what it costs now, which is definitely, cheaper than giving it to someone on your team. But yeah, it's bottlenecked on a few things, mostly energy. But there's a lot of like engineering and algorithmic improvements that a lot of really smart people are working on to make these more efficient to serve. So yeah, it's like the number one thing preventing broader adoption in the economy right now. So it's naturally going to just get better over time.
Yeah, everyone's having this problem. It's not just accountants trying to do bank recs. It's literally everybody. So yeah, I also believe this problem will get solved. Okay, data security. Obviously, we're accountants. We have a lot of personal and like sensitive information. Now, the way that I think about it is that anything that actually has like sensitive information, like it has client's name, addresses, any type of PII or like TIN, like when we're doing tax returns, like any type of social security numbers or EINs, any of that, I'm not really throwing into just like the basic version of these AI models. If anything, like anonymize the data as much as you can. And especially in crypto accounting, if it's just on the Block Explorer, like that's public data anyway, so I'm not really concerned about that. But it's more so when we start to have a bunch of financial data with, identifying information. What the way I think about it is that these tools like Perplexity, I know Claude has it as well. They have plans that are SOC 2 compliant and just have more guardrails around this data. And so anytime I'm dealing with data that is more sensitive, I'm using like the enterprise versions of it. Downside is that it is a lot more expensive, but I also don't want to take my chances, you know? So yeah, the way just be aware, you know, just think about like if this data were to get leaked, like would it be not okay, but like would there be anything that would negatively impact one of my clients, or is it anonymized? So it would be a little bit better that way. And evaluate your vendors. You know, there's not just Claude Perplexity, there's other vendors out there, but just make sure that whoever you choose, they have all of these like data guardrails and data security in place. But for me, I really do index on like the SOC 2 compliance because, you know, the tools that we already use, like Google Drive or Slack, like they have the same compliance as well. So honestly, why it would be like different with AI. So yeah, that's how I think about it. But at the same time, this is an emerging technology. We're still very early in recent hash basis. We are still crafting like how we think about AI and data security and our own internal data security policies. Pretty much it's me on my team that's doing this, so it's a bit more local, and I'm using the enterprise versions of this data. But yeah, as it gets more ubiquitous, we're definitely gonna have to have a different conversation about this. So that's my spiel on data. And then lastly, because I know we're coming up on time, this was a lot that we covered. How do you actually implement this system either in your practice, if you're an accounting firm, or just like in your day-to-day job? So the first thing that I would do, and I still need to do this, but it's on my list, is actually just mapping out your workflow. So understand the tasks that you're actually doing on a day-to-day basis. And so actually there's a tool that I wanted to share with you guys because I've been using it a lot. It's called Whisperflow. And essentially, it's just like a voice to text. You just like double tap a key on your computer or on your keyboard, and then you can just talk, and then it transcribes everything you say. And I mention this because it's so useful when you're doing these AI prompts. Like when I was talking about, like I was kind of brain dumping all of my tax work. I was talking, I wasn't typing because it's just like the AI can understand your voice to text, and it's just more helpful to have more context. And so just like talk about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, give it, and then put it into Claude or put it into Perplexity and ask it, hey, what can you automate reliably out of this? Again, we still need to do it. I'm still playing around with this, but it's on my list, and I want the AI to tell me what it can do. I have identified carpal tunnel works. Anything where there's a lot of clicking, very repetitive, very low level. Like you do not need to waste your time doing this anymore. If you have the right tools to automate this, like definitely do it. I want to save my wrist, you know, and AI is helping me do that. Test the automation gradually. Don't like, you know, I can see how you can watch this and then freak out and be like, oh my gosh, I need to like automate everything. I actually think that's not really the best way to do it. Like start with the low hanging fruit, like start with what's easy to automate, just pick a couple of tasks at a time and then see how it goes. Because it's kind of gets back to the data security. We need to be really thoughtful about what we're actually using these tools for instead of just automating everything and dumping everything into AI. I don't think that's the best strategy. Just automate what makes sense and what you can do so in a secure way. And then just try it. The amount of times I would ask Nikhil, I'd be like, hey, can Perplexity do this? And then Nikhil, what do you always tell me?
Just try it yourself.
I get so annoyed. It's like, just tell me they can do it. But I have found that just doing it myself and like just experimenting and seeing if it can do the task for me has been the best way to learn. It's kind of like when I was getting into crypto, like you learn just by doing the transactions and using the protocols yourself. It's really no different with AI. This is a tool. You just have to use it. And we already kind of talked about know your limits, knowing what to automate, what not to automate. And then, yeah, establishing AI data policies. We're still working on this, but yeah, we're definitely going to have to think about this as this technology progresses. So, okay, I think that's all I had. Nikhil, anything on your end before we look at some Q&A?
No, that was awesome.
All right, cool. Let me take a look. If anyone has any questions, feel free to throw them in the Q&A, or if anyone wants to ask a question, I think
There
I
was
should
one
be able
about
to.
AI CPA digital aid that I don't think you addressed.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't see that.
It's like in the middle.
Oh, I remember seeing that. I think I saw it on LinkedIn. I just have to plug in the latest pressing gap. Yeah, I think you could. I think you definitely. I think they were saying, can you just push in the accounting state, and then just have that as a skill. That's actually, I wonder if that would work. Nikhil, the gap's huge. There's like a ton of roles. Could you just give it to Perplexity and say, create this as a skill, and anytime you have an accounting question, it would reference that, or is it more efficient to have Perplexity just like pull from the internet or pull from wherever to get the answer?
Yeah, I feel like if you could probably make a skill for it. Do you know how long it is?
No, it's huge. That's all I
Yeah, I
know.
mean, as long as it's like, less than 100,000 tokens, it's probably doable.
Plus, I think there's already like those taxgpt.com. Like, I'm pretty sure there's other, like, there's tools out there that are like LLM specific. Although, Nikhil, if anyone has to go, by the way, feel free to go, but I just want to spitball Nikhil for a little bit. Remember like a couple, I don't know when this was, but like there was the debate between like creating an LLM for a specific topic versus a generalized LLM. What are we actually seeing? Because it kind of seems like the generalized LLMs are winning versus like creating a tax GPT. Like Claude and Perplexity can already pull a tax code. So like what's actually winning right now?
Yeah, I think the general systems are going to win most of the industries. For very specific workflows. I mean, what I've been seeing is that there are startups that come out that build a really cool thing and, do something good for like finance or legal or health, and then they get acquired by like Anthropic or OpenAI. So yeah, maybe making a startup is good for you as a founder, but I don't know if long term there will be like a specific LLM for tax or accounting. I think it'll just kind of be folded into a more generalized system.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, Jeremy, I just changed the settings so you should be able to see everybody's questions. Sorry about that. I thought everyone could see everybody's questions. Um, yeah, that's a good point. Let's see. Any other questions? Yeah, I think one question that I have, this gets to Ankit's question, is even if you have like their enterprise versions of Claude and Perplexity and you are putting more sensitive financial data in it, like are the models training on that data? I don't know if that's something you can answer, but that is a question like I have as well. Like, yeah, you're SOC 2
Yeah.
compliant, it's a compliant, whatever, but like what is that?
Yeah,
Practically
so
mean.
at least Perplexity, we have a toggle where you can opt out of training. This is exposed to like enterprise users. So like obviously they don't want their personal sensitive data to be used for training. So if you select that, then yeah, it just won't be used.
And do you know if it's default on or off? Because I haven't even looked at that yet.
If you're enterprise, it's default off, but
Okay.
otherwise it's default on.
Okay, great. So yeah, Ankit, hopefully that answers your question there. Let's see. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I think we answered everything. All right. Well, thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. Again, like I'm not an expert on this. I've just been playing around with these tools. I want to share what I know with everyone. But yeah, I do think a part two is definitely coming as we just learn how to use these tools more and what we do every day. So, all right, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to reach out to us either on here's our stuff. Yeah, we're both on LinkedIn. Yeah, so thank you so much, and thank you, Nikhil, for joining the webinar. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was fun.
All right, thank you, everyone. Happy Friday and have a great weekend. Bye.